Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we examine one of the most devastating and prolonged conflicts in the modern world, the Somali Civil War, chaos in the Horn of Africa. This war is not a single conflict, but a shifting series of political breakdowns, international interventions, and local power struggles that have shaped the fate of Somalia for over 3 decades. From dictatorship to famine, from warlords to terrorists, this is the story of a nation torn apart, yet still striving for stability. To understand the Somali Civil War, we must first examine the nation's political foundations. Somalia gained independence in 1960 through the merger of 2 former colonies, British Somaliland and Italian Somaliland. It began as a parliamentary democracy, but faced instability early on. In 1969, Major General Mohammed Siad Barre seized power in a military coup following the assassination of the president. He established an authoritarian regime grounded in scientific socialism, aligning with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Siad Barre's government launched ambitious modernization campaigns, land reform policies, and literacy programs. However, it also became increasingly repressive, concentrating power within the ruling military elite and favoring certain clans over others, particularly the Marihan, his own. This sowed the seeds of future rebellion. By the 1980s, internal opposition grew, especially among marginalized clans. Armed rebel movements emerged, including the Somali National Movement, based in the north and composed mostly of the Asak clan. Siad Barre's regime responded with extreme brutality. In 1988, government forces bombed the city of Hargeisa, killing tens of thousands of civilians. This marked one of the earliest large-scale atrocities in the conflict. By 1991, the regime finally collapsed. Mohammed Siad Barre was overthrown and fled the capital, Mogadishu. But instead of peace, the power vacuum unleashed chaos. Various clan-based militias and warlords vied for control of Mogadishu and the rest of the country. Somalia had effectively become a failed state with no central government, no national army, and no functional institutions. As rival militias fought for power, ordinary Somalis faced a dire humanitarian catastrophe. Famine swept through southern Somalia in the early 1990s, exacerbated by looted aid and militia blockades. In response, the United Nations launched a humanitarian mission in 1992 called the United Nations Operation in Somalia, which later evolved into a more robust effort under United Nations Operation in Somalia II. Simultaneously, the United States led a multinational force under the banner of Unified Task Force, aiming to secure aid delivery. However, the mission quickly transformed from humanitarian relief to direct confrontation with warlords, especially Mohammed Farah Aidid, one of the most powerful militia leaders in Mogadishu. This escalation culminated in the Battle of Mogadishu in October 1993, where 18 American soldiers and hundreds of Somalis were killed in what became known as Black Hawk Down. Following this event, international forces began to withdraw, and Somalia was once again left to its fate. With no central government, Somalia fragmented further. Local warlords controlled cities and regions, and insecurity persisted. Amid the chaos, Islamic courts began to emerge, grassroots systems offering law and order through religious jurisprudence. These courts eventually united into the Islamic Courts Union, which, by 2006, managed to bring relative stability to Mogadishu for the first time in years. However, the Islamic Courts Union was perceived as a threat by the transitional federal government, Ethiopia, and the United States, due to alleged links with radical Islamist groups. With backing from the United States, Ethiopian defense forces invaded Somalia in late 2006, ousting the Islamic Courts Union. But this intervention gave rise to a far more extreme movement, Harakat al-Shabaab al-Mujahideen, or simply al-Shabaab, an Islamist militant group with connections to al-Qaeda. Al-Shabaab waged an insurgency against both the transitional federal government and foreign peacekeepers. Several attempts were made to re-establish national governance. A transitional national government was formed in 2000, followed by a transitional federal government in 2004, with the support of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, the African Union, and the United Nations. Yet these governments were fragile and often unable to assert control beyond the capital. In 2007, the African Union mission in Somalia was deployed to stabilize key areas and support the transitional authorities. The African Union peacekeeping mission, composed of troops from Uganda, Burundi, Kenya, Ethiopia, and others, played a critical role in pushing al-Shabaab out of Mogadishu. Despite these efforts, al-Shabaab maintained control over vast rural areas and continued to carry out terrorist attacks in Somalia and neighboring countries, including the 2013 Westgate Mall attack in Nairobi, Kenya. Today, Somalia remains a deeply divided country. In the north, Somaliland, a self-declared independent republic, has functioned as a relatively stable and democratic de facto state, although it lacks international recognition. The neighboring region of Puntland also exercises a high degree of autonomy, with its own government and security forces. Meanwhile, the federal government of Somalia, based in Mogadishu, governs only with limited authority. Clan dynamics, political infighting, and corruption continue to hinder national unity. Al-Shabaab remains a potent threat, and the withdrawal of foreign troops has raised concerns about a potential resurgence of violence. Despite everything, Somalia has seen moments of hope: a growing civil society, diaspora investments, and local peace-building initiatives. Yet the path forward remains uncertain. The Somali civil war is a conflict not only of guns and ideology, but of identity, governance, and survival in one of the world's most geopolitically strategic and fragile regions. The Somali civil war is one of the most important case studies of state failure, foreign intervention, and the struggle for sovereignty in the modern era. If you found this breakdown insightful, subscribe for more deep dive historical content. Let us know in the comments which conflict or crisis you want us to explore next. Until next time, stay curious.